Joining me now, three of my favorite political analysts, columnist, New York Daily News, CNN contributor Errol Louis, editor-at-large, senior political analyst, Time Magazine, Mark Halperin, former special assistant to both former President George Bush and former Vice President Dick Cheney, Ron Christie. Thank you all for being here. Let me start, if I may, with you, Ron. The president he seems to be bringing a teachable moment out of what was controversy up until about an hour ago, or is it, in fact, a controversy that will continue beyond the teachable moment, so-called?
Well, I think this is going to be a story that's going to live on for a little while. I think in the short term it's going to die down, but for the first time, people have looked at President Obama, and the Teflon seems to be a little bit removed from him. And I think the president, was very arrogant in the way that he said that the police department had acted stupidly. Mm-hmm. The first thing that you learn in law school is that you should never assume that facts, not in evidence. The president made an assumption. He shouldn't have done it. He's the president of the United States.
Better than that, Ron. He said he didn't know the facts, but here's the judgment.
It's going to be something. And the last thing I would say is that for a president who campaigned to be post-racial and he wanted to move beyond race, he said he was too busy to wade into Tehran when the Iranian students were protesting, but he immediately jumped in and he said, oh, I have an opinion here. I think it's going to follow him.
Errol?
A mistake, I think, no doubt, as he himself acknowledged. I would have loved to have been there when he walked into the Brady briefing room to sort of dial himself back.
In the room before he walked.
Well, apparently he realized that he had made a serious mistake, and the distraction of it really was crippling almost in a way. I mean, because we're not talking about the previous hour that preceded that remark, where he was laying out his hopes and his agenda and his rationale for healthcare reform, which is very much in danger, and he needed and wants the nation to focus on.
And how was this day any different from any previous day in that respect?
Well, you know, I mean, if he can get himself back on track, he'll have a chance at his healthcare reform. But right now, a very unwelcome distraction. He cannot be the explainer-in-chief on race. I mean, that has been clear all along, and he really put his foot right in the middle of it.
He confirmed it this week.
Indeed.
Mark?
It's a teachable moment, and the person who's going to learn the first lesson, if he's lucky, is the president. Because he cannot do all the things that Ron said in particular. He cannot go out in front of reporters and wade in on an issue when he admits he doesn't know the facts, whether it involves race or not. This is a huge distraction for them. It will continue into next week. This president does not like what I call the freak show. He does not like the whole talk radio, 24-hour cable dynamic.
Tell me about it.
He likes to say that he can rise above it, and he often does. This was a case sometime between this morning when Robert Gibbs said we're done talking about this, and the afternoon when the president came out and talked about it, when the president had to realize you can't always transcend it. Sometimes you have to go and give, and that's what he did. I think it probably dies, unless there are new facts, by early next week.
Dying along with it, Ron Christie, his health care initiative, which, by the way, the national media, much of it liberal, styles as reform, which last I looked was a positive and supportive description rather than an objective and neutral word.
Sure. Well, I think the president's health care initiative is on major life support right now. The president has gone out and campaigned to the American people and said, we're going to have a bill that is not going to raise the deficit by 1 penny. The Congressional Budget Office has proven that's not true. The president said he was very much for reforming the system, but the bill that's making its way through the Congress right now has very little in the way of systematic and structural reform, doesn't reduce the cost of the healthcare delivery system, and again, it doesn't insure all Americans, which he said was his goal. So I think he's in deep trouble on this one.
Let's see, I mean, one thing about the current situation is you have a detailed critique of a non-existent bill. And so the president has...
Why in the world are they trying to pass a non-existent bill?
Well, no, he's trying to get a bill so that they can get something going. I mean, look, the real dynamic here, I think, is he wants something passed before the end of the year, but really what that means is not so much the calendar year, but the midterm election season. When it heats up in earnest, it'll be very difficult to get anybody to take any chances.
Push this into the middle of next year?
Well, no, I mean, listen, I mean, I've been saying, I don't know about other people, I've been saying all along, what he doesn't get in the way of major reform on climate, on healthcare, what he doesn't get before the 2010 elections really heat up, he very possibly won't get it all, because 2011 signals the re-election season.
There's two parts to his challenge: the inside game, Congress, and particularly within his own party, and the outside game of public opinion. In the press conference, he did not make progress, as best I could tell, with either of those two audiences. He is got to get, I think, past the point of saying, I'm sort of like that provision, I sort of don't like that provision. He's got to, I think if he has a chance, he's going to have to get people in a room and say, this is now what I'm for. Can we pass this? That's right.
For the first time, two polls today, that is Zogby's interactive poll and Rasmussen Reports poll, shows the president's approval rating below 50%. with the incident with the Cambridge Police Department. He's facing some interesting headwinds, I think is the expression.
I don't think those polls have him at the right place. I think he's higher, but the trend is certainly down, and particularly people looking to him in terms of health care. He is going to have to succeed, I think, again, first in Washington in the inside game to get public opinion back up. I don't think he can rally public opinion right now just from a standing start.
I think Mark's right on that, and I think the president's numbers are going down because he is so personally involved himself in the healthcare debate. He's made this healthcare issue about him. The people always liked the president for his outstanding personality, for what they perceived. Now they're looking at the president in a policy issue area, and they don't like it.
As it heats up, he's already put out the call to Obama supporters to get 1 million names on a signature and on a petition and so forth, and start putting pressure the way Reagan used to do on a recalcitrant Congress. That will, I predict, include Democrats as well as Republicans. The word is that he's going to go into anybody's district he needs to. The battle hasn't really yet been joined on this, but he's going to have to whip his own party into line.
We'll see what happens starting, well, about Monday, I guess. Thanks very much. We appreciate it. Up next, important new information on the murder of a U.S. Border Patrol agent murdered while protecting our border with Mexico.